So yeah, thanks for jumping on the podcast. I really do appreciate it
Okay.
and like making, time out of your day and everything because I know it's about the end of the day for you over in the UK. But yeah, I'm here with Paul Newman and he has probably been developing longer than I've been alive. So yeah, if you just want to give a little bit of like what what your past is, all your experience and knowledge. So yeah, go for it.
Oh, could you? How- you don't want that. So I suppose the easy answer to that is I started programming professionally back in 1997. So that's when I got my first coding job,
Nice.
and I've kind of been programming ever since. So a
Right.
long old while. And my first .NET was back in. I started in .NET back in 2003. So back in the .NET 1.0, 1.1 kind of era.
Wow.
So I've been in and around the tech since then, really.
That's awesome.
So how about you? Where did you start? Because I don't know that.
Yeah. So let's see. I'm trying to think of when I graduated now. But I mean, I've only been working professionally for maybe about a year and a half now. Like this summer, I think is going to be 2 years.
Cool.
So yeah, I'm still like very new to it,
Hmm.
but taking in a lot of information. And I always know that like people who have been around, those are the people I like to talk to because those are the people that like weather the storm compared to this is the hottest new tech. And it's like, well, yeah, that's neat, but like here's how to make software. But yeah, I did
See,
it
I'm,
through
I'm, I'm the
college.
other way. I'm kind of the other way. I'm kind of the other way. I like to see the people like you and talk to the people like you who are coming in with fresh ideas and new ways of approaching it. Because
Exactly.
if you do it for too long, you can get a bit stuck in a rut and things happen in certain ways. So there's a nice blend. I think is
Right.
one of the nice thing, the best kind of development teams you can have is where you have that blend between young and new.
Oh, for
And
sure.
that was young and new, young and old.
Right. But yeah, because the thing is there's we come in with all our ideas and we're like, oh yeah, let's do this, and like we're very passionate about. I mean, most people are very passionate about
Mm,
software development and stuff like that. But then there's the oh well, we've tried this in the past, and that's where that more tenured type developer comes in and it's like this just doesn't work,
mm,
like don't do it. we've tried it we've
mm.
tried it so many times, and so that's where I like to know that like I want to try new ideas, but I don't want to reinvent the wheel either, you know so I guess yeah, go for it.
I think there's a fine balance there, isn't there? Because um, I think as a young developer, you need to graze your knees a bit, don't you? You need to fall over a bit. You need to
Exactly.
make some mistakes because that's the way you learn.
For
And
sure.
the danger is you get older developers on teams who just say, this is the way you do it because that's the way we do it. And
Exactly.
for some people, there is nothing more frustrating in the world than someone just saying, do it like this because I said so.
That's yeah, that's
That's
so
like that's
true.
like the worst thing.
Because I mean, even when we
So you need people who can go on.
okay, yeah, I mean, like even when we started, like
Sorry.
no, you're good. But like they would say, okay, well, let's do this, or like let's use this technology or whatever, and immediately I'd look up like why not to use that technology because I want to know the trade-offs, and that was something that I wanted to
Mm,
learn is like why are we going to do this, and so then I would be able to ask those questions and say, what happens, for example, if we do all server side rendering, right? And then what happens if the user is on their phone and then they don't
mm.
have data connection? And that's like, just one example. But I always like to look at the pros and cons. And that was like something that I really got into was the trade offs. And like, that's where I've talked to a bunch of developers who kind of know those trade offs and have seen that in the past. But then it's like, I'm gonna try it anyways. See what happens.
You see, this is where I've seen sort of as you get on in your career a bit, and you sort of like at the moment I'm running a team. So when you're running teams, you have this trade off between actually getting the software out there and wanting to do whatever current best
Yeah.
practice or people believe best practice is. And there's this trade off between you get some young guys coming onto the team who say, I'm going to spend 2 months doing this because I want to try and see what happens if I break this bit. And someone from the other side saying, but we've got to get this out to the customer.
Right.
And so this trade off between the two, which can be complex. And I've seen a lot of conflict, to be fair, over the time between older devs who either don't want to change their ways or are getting worried about deadlines, and younger devs who have new ideas who want to try that stuff. And that balance can be difficult, I think.
For sure. Because
It can produce a lot of great stuff as well if you get it right.
exactly, right? Because that was the thing we were taught in, like university when I was studying for my degree and everything like that was these are the best practices. This is how you build software. Like these are like the best techniques basically. And that's all fine and dandy, but then
Yeah.
what happens when a company's been around for 20 years or something like that and then you jump in and it's like this isn't best practice, and so you can't obviously redo everything. Like that's just impossible. And so that's a thing that I think colleges really miss out on is the business value compared to like the engineering practices and stuff like that. And that's why they encourage us to get internships
Mm.
before we actually graduate, so then we know what it's like to work at like an actual corporation or business or whatever. So yeah, because it can it can really be
Yeah.
like, what do you mean this is how you do it? That's so wrong. It's like, well, okay, there's a trade-off.
The big thing you always see, and to be fair, this seems to be changing in the industry at the moment, depending on which company you're in. But it's the thing I remember was diagramming. So at university, I did my dissertation, like my final year project on object role modeling.
Oh, okay.
So mapping a real world problem into objects for object oriented
Hmm.
development. And when you go out into the industry, very, very few companies do that.
Right.
And it's like, but this is the way we do it. This is what we've been taught. This is best practice. It's like, yeah, but what we do is we sit in a room with a whiteboard and someone says, probably this, and we do
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
What?
Oh, it's so true. Yeah, because it's just like
But
this
the funny thing, the
box.
thing that I find, yeah, but the thing that I find interesting is that you're saying, like, this is your second year of development. I found that back in 1997 when I came out of university. Exactly that problem. So in all that time, the industry hasn't changed.
Right. And and the thing
It's
is,
exactly the same.
right, because and that was the thing is I felt like I got a leg up on compared to other students that would come out because some of the students like would have their degree but they wouldn't have any professional experience or anything. And so then when they hit that first
Mm,
job, it's like a culture shock and everything's just not the way that you've been taught.
yeah.
And so really having that internship really prepared me to be able to be a not only a good software developer but also understand the business value side of it because yeah they don't
Mm.
really teach you that. So yeah, the trade-offs are interesting.
You see, I think this is, yeah, this, I think that's the key. It's kind of, I think understanding the code that you're writing, the code that you're delivering, what that does for the business, the customers who use it,
Hmm.
is critical because the amount of times I've seen development teams, like the standard argument apparently between every developer on the planet, according to Stack Overflow, is tabs or spaces.
Oh yeah.
Right? I mean, I've never had that argument with a developer, but allegedly it is. But in the real world, when you actually are deploying a piece of software out to a customer, most of them really don't care. They
Right.
just want to be able to pay people. They want to be able to bill the customers. They want to get their businesses running.
Hmm.
And some of that stuff is really, really good, but there's only so far you want those battles to go. you know,
Exactly, yeah, for sure.
it's kind of, you got to get it out there.
Yeah, it's like, well, yeah, we made it perfectly and we're now 2 years past market and it's like we didn't release. It's like, well, that yeah. Yeah, that's like the exact situation.
Exactly, and it's that kind of, I think, like you were saying earlier, it's that the maybe some of the balance and the experience that you get as you get a little bit on, and it's wrong to say as you get on into your career because some people have that mindset anyway,
Right.
but I think you tend to find it, hopefully with people who've been doing it a bit longer, that understanding of actually at some point we need to deliver this and we can argue about which line the curly brace is on later.
Right.
Maybe that doesn't matter quite as much as we think.
Right, because and that was one of the things that we were actually taught in school was like we went through a whole class about the different types of development that you do. So there's like, of course, there's waterfall, there's agile, there's extreme programming, there's all sorts of stuff. And so, but the big one they focused on was agile because that's what most companies do nowadays. but they really hammered home minimum viable product for those classes, and I'm so
Mm.
thankful for that because you see these polished apps with great animations and everything like that, but the first iteration of that product was never great, and that's what they really taught us, and I'm extremely grateful for that because otherwise I'd be trying to make everything perfect all the time.
Yeah, I think that's the strive for perfection in software engineering is probably worth a few hour podcast in its own right. It's kind of, in my opinion, it's not a thing. It's always going to be the best you can do at the moment. And
Exactly.
the moment you've checked a PR in, it's out of date. It's not best practice anymore. So it's kind of, you've got to kind of, you know,
Right.
you got to sort of take it with a pinch of salt. It's like, do the best you can, do the best job you can, and just accept that it's not going to be 100% perfect.
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't know who I heard it from, but one of the things, and it wasn't even necessarily about best practice, it was just like clean code. But I don't know who I heard this from, but I remember during college, they were like, you know, always just code like the next person that's going to see your code has anger management problems. And so just make it as clean as that as you can for that person, and you're good to go. I was like, that's okay. I get it.
I, I've worked on teams like that, so yeah, where most of them had.
Right? Oh.
I like that ethos a lot. I think that is, it's one of those things as you go through writing code though that I think matters. It's the sustainability and the cleanliness of your code and how easy it is to maintain it for other developers matters. It's, which is why people get all excited about standardizing variable names and practices and stuff, because other people need to hit that and understand it quite quickly. You have a production issue and everything has gone down, you need to hit that system and know what's going on where, so you can get through it quickly. You don't need to be going there saying, "Oh, this person uses an underscore for a constant and an uppercase for a what." It's just kind of, you need to just know it and hit it, and so.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
But yeah, I like your ethos.
yeah, that's really stuck with me. Is just, yeah, that's how I code now. Is just like the next person who's gonna see it has anger management problems, knows where I live. So yeah, but oh, but yeah, I mean, like going back to like university and stuff like that. What initially like drew you to development compared to, I guess, other. Not very sure how it works in the UK as well because it's different.
So if if I go right back to what drew me into development, originally it was the fact that I think my dad, when I was about 8 or 9, bought one of these computers that you plug into the TV that we had in the 80s. It had 32K memory and an external tape drive, and he plugged it in the telly, into the TV. And if mom needed to do the hoovering around the house, you had to unplug it so you couldn't save your code and stuff. And it was all written in very simple BASIC. It was like, and I think just that, being able to do something as simple as putting 10 print Paul 20 go to 10 and see it happen and see it do something was like, oh wow, that's so cool. And then realistically, I think it's about the only thing I could do. It was the only thing I was good at. So I ended up doing it at A level at university. I did computer science, but then honestly, I came out of university thinking I was going to be a DBA. I did a little bit of coding like Turbo Pascal and VB and stuff at university, and thought I'm going to come out and be a DBA, and just found that in the 90s there were no junior DBA jobs. So there was no chance I was going to do that. So I fell into a programming job and just fell in love with it and thought, this is where I want to be and what I can do well. And yeah, so that's where I still am.
Just never stopped.
So what was your journey like? Yeah, basically I just haven't stopped since. Or no one's found a way to stop me anyway.
Oh, yeah, because I went to like university and I was originally going to study industrial engineering, which is it's mostly like
Mm-hmm.
manufacturing and determining like just the most efficient way for like product lines and stuff like that. So maybe people who make corn or ethanol and stuff like that. just determining like the best process for that
Hmm.
and making it the most efficient that you can while being cost effective. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then I really got into the automation side of it, and I was like, this is pretty sick. And then I like started doing like app development on the side, and I kept this major. But then one day, someone was just like, well, why do you code outside of like school so much? And I was like, well, because I like it. They're like, why don't you just switch your major? And I was like, right. So then that next day, I like walked up to my counselor and I was like, I'm switching majors. And they're like, you sure? And I was like, absolutely. And then I did it. So yeah, I mean, like I was just always
That's awesome though, because
interested in like outside. So yeah,
that's awesome. It's nice that you can just fall into something that you like and you enjoy. Because you do your job a lot, and particularly with coding, it's like pretty much all your life because you hit a difficult problem at work and you will spend all night and all weekend thinking about that problem.
right.
So you've got to like it.
For sure. Because there's almost like a I wouldn't even well, yeah. It's an obsession of like developers and engineers that just want to solve problems. And so, that code like just in the
Mm.
back of your mind all day and you're like, I've figured out the solution. And of course it's always 2 a.m, like right when you're like about to go to bed or whatever. Or you awaken
Oh
like a
yeah,
hot sweat.
nowhere near a keyboard.
Oh yeah. But
Yeah,
so true.
exactly. Oh, I was talking to. It's really interesting because I was talking to some guys who are just coming out of university at the moment earlier in the week, and I asked a very similar question for like what made you want to do this? Where's your passion? And for him, it started as someone bought him Lego Mindstorms. I think you have those in the States. So this is like
Yeah.
Lego, but it's the robot ones, and you can and someone bought him those when he was 11, and he just started coding on that. And his exact quote was, "I felt like a god because I could make this robot do stuff." And then that drove his passion to then want to go and do more of it. And he had support around him in the family, and so he just went for it, and that's what he does now. But it's just cool, and it just shows like I always think you're not too young to start and to get interested in it and to start problem solving, and
Right.
it's,
Exactly.
it's
Because yeah, I mean, all software development is solving problems with just code, and I think that's really at the core of it. Is just we really enjoy solving problems.
yeah, it's funny. And I remember when my children were quite young, teaching them binary. They're only about 5 and 6. Software engineers, children. But I had two lights in the kitchen.
Hmm.
And so I was like, how could we count numbers on this? And it's like, oh, no lights, one light, oh, two lights, three. Oh, wow.
That's honestly like
So they knew from about 4 how to count in binary. so,
that's amazing.
so yeah, never too young to start.
Well, and
But I think you're right about problem solving. It's a thing for us, isn't it? We can't not. And you find like with software engineers, if you give them a timed task, so like an hour, and a problem to solve it, the moment you hit the hour, if they haven't solved it, they will not want to move until they fixed it. It's like, I'm going to stay here all night if it takes it. I've got to get the. It's that desire to solve, isn't it? Fix.
right, yeah, that solve and then produce. That's the other thing that I really enjoyed about software is just I could see what I was building, like it was out there, and I can show people, hey, I created this app. Like that is super cool. I did that. Now, like other people are like,
Mm.
yeah, I implemented, and I saved the company like 30% in savings or whatever through finance. I'm like, yeah, but did you build an app? Because I like look at this. So,
Shiny,
right.
shiny.
Which, oh man, but just having like the real world applications,
No,
I
it is
think
true.
drew me to it, and just like even like this light right here,
Mm.
I have like code set up to where I can control all the lights in my apartment, and it's just all the applications that you can do is just super awesome, and I think that's what really got me into it.
That's cool.
But I'd say so like after university, like everyone has their like first professional job or I guess internship or whatever, like your first experience like working as a professional, what was probably the most shocking
Mm.
thing, I guess?
For me, The most shocking thing for me, I think, was, as we were saying earlier, the fact that you have all these. You come out of academia with the belief that things work in these big constructive ways, and that you sit there and someone gives you a problem, and then you sit down and spend a month working out a bunch of diagrams and stuff, and then you start coding, and it's like the real world is way messier than that. It's just so much. I mean, the first job I came into was writing 4GLs on Unix. And there was no real documentation. Occasionally, someone would draw up like an ER diagram on of some database tables if they remembered how, but most of it was just this thing's broken, fix it. And just and you just get in there and code it, and it's okay. The world's changed, and it's got a lot more professional now, and where we are now is a lot more professional. But I think at the time it was just that culture shock of. Um, some systems down or something needs to be done tomorrow, so you just do it. You don't sit down and diagram it for a month.
Yeah, that's
How about
fair.
you? How about for you? Where was your big
Let's see.
where was yours?
The biggest thing that probably shocked me the most was just how much people don't know. Like, I thought coming out of university, I was supposed to know like pretty much everything, and just like I should be able to code, I should be able to figure stuff out all on my own, and like the fundamentals should be so strong that I can code pretty much anything with a little documentation. And then I got out there and just seeing how people really rely on each other for just help, and just when someone really has a strong expertise somewhere.
Mm,
And that's what really made me just like grateful almost, because when I came out to the software engineering, I was just like, I don't know if this is right for me. I don't know if I'm smart enough. And then just seeing all these people that
mm.
still have questions, it was just a big sigh of relief. And so it was just really surprising. I was like, what do you mean you've been coding for 10 years and you can't like do this or whatever? And then, well, they're like, well, yeah, I've just never worked with it, but I can figure it out. I was like, man, that's how this works. I was like, I love that.
Yeah, that's really really astute. It is how it is. I mean, I dread to think how many years into my professional career now, and as I think the further you get into it, the more you realise you don't know. And I think this leads into what these days is quite the fashionable label of imposter syndrome, of people sitting in the middle of an industry who are awesome developers and awesome professionals, but feel like they don't belong because I mean, you look even like the JavaScript ecosystem. I mean, every day there are about 50 million new frameworks launched, and they're all named after a different fruit.
Exactly.
And someone will come along and say, this is the hot new topic, and if you don't know this, you're stupid. And so, but I think you have to get to a point where you just accept the fact that it's okay not to know stuff, and it's better to admit you don't know stuff and just say, never seen it. It doesn't mean I'm stupid. It just means I've never seen it.
Right. Yeah, because it seems like
But it
every
takes a level of professional confidence.
you go first.
Yeah. No, sorry, I was just going to say it takes a level of professional confidence to feel comfortable doing that in front of a team. Like if you're a grad and you come out of university and you just get your first job, you're 1 or 2 years into it, and you sit in the middle of the team, and someone says, "Hey, we're going to do this in React," and you've just never seen React before in your life because you didn't do it at college. That's okay.
Right. Exactly.
It just doesn't. You just have to have that confidence to say that, don't you?
For sure. Because, yeah, it's just, and I think that's what's really hard about new grads. And that's where they kind of get stuck in that loop of, they just want to impress, their superiors or whatever, like their manager, whoever that may be. And then they end up creating something that's just awful because they didn't ask questions. And it's okay to not know. And like, that was probably the biggest thing, was
Yeah.
just keep asking questions. And that's what I did. Because then I get more information. I get more knowledge by asking people. So,
Yeah, I think you say new grads. I think it's absolutely true at the other end as well. I see plenty of developers who like 20, 30 years of experience who don't want to admit they don't know things because they'll feel like it debases them and they're not a good professional because they don't know it.
Very true.
And you get exactly the same problem if they just sort of bury their heads in the sand, start doing stuff in a way that doesn't work anymore, and cause just as much chaos as if it was a brand new green-eared grad fresh out of uni who's never seen professional code before. It's
Right.
like so you can get the same problem at both ends of the spectrum. It's like
Yeah. And usually, yeah, there's a lot when you're a lot more experienced, of course, you have, I mean, everyone has a little bit of a bigger ego once they like, start figuring things out. They're like, oh, yeah, I can solve this. But then, like, there's just those people that are over the top and just, have that ego to where it just destroys like software development and innovation in general. And so that's something that people have to really be careful for
yeah,
is when they join a job, make sure that the person above you is comfortable saying, I don't know. Like, that's one of my biggest things is just
yeah,
if they can point me in
yeah,
the direction, they're doing their job.
yeah. I think that's fair. It's yeah.
So I mean, so yeah, like as a professional developer, got some experience, and then you got years under your belt. Then what would you say is like the most enjoyable thing, and then what's probably the least enjoyable thing, just about software development in general, or just the industry, however you want to take it.
I think the thing I enjoy the most, so the thing I like about coding is well, it mainly is coding. I just like the process of building code. I particularly enjoy when you can take an ugly old function which is written in a not very nice way, and it might be something you wrote yourself 2 years ago, or in my case, 15 years ago, whatever it is. But just taking that and refactoring it into a nice, clean new way so it works well, it's maintainable, it's reliable. That's cool. I also enjoy just that thing of knowing that the stuff you do goes out there and makes people's lives better, and even really silly things on a small scale. Like I remember once I wrote a payroll interface, which is a really tiny little bit of software, nothing critical. But the guy who ran payroll at this company, it normally took him 3 days to do, and with this little interface, took him 20 minutes plus 10 minutes to check. And he was like so excited. And okay, it's only changing the world for one person in that case, but he was so excited and happy about it. It's a cool thing to be able to do. And most of the systems we work on affect hundreds of thousands of people in their daily lives. You know, especially with COVID recently and the lockdowns. We've had guys writing. So in the UK, we've had like furlough, which is sort of paying people while they're not in work and not able to work and making up wages and stuff. And so we've had guys who've had to write reports to be able to pay those people and make sure we keep those schemes going. So you're actually putting food on people's tables, which is, from my point of view, or from our point of view, it's just one silly little bit of code, a few modules, it's half a day you're done. For someone else, it's their ability to live their life, which is cool. It's an exciting thing. Um, so yeah, I mean, pain wise, so much. No, I think I think my biggest pain, I think, at the moment is not being able to get to code as much as I would like to. Because of the point I'm at in my career now, I tend to run teams, so most of my time is spent making sure that the developers on my team have the right people to talk to, can know who to go and talk to ask questions, keep going when they have difficult problems or things break down, jumping in with them, pairing up, making sure they can get those solved and we can deliver. So the actual time I get to do code for myself reduces a lot, but as a team, we're delivering, which is what matters. But I yeah, so which is why I end up doing pet projects, obviously, but because then I get to code at home.
Right. I feel that for sure.
And how about you? Where's yours then? Where's your love and hate? Your yin and yang.
Oh man. I think honestly the thing that I really enjoy the most about software development just in general is just the innovation. And then just what can come from that because you can innovate something new and then if everyone starts using it that's amazing, but it's just that progress as a whole, like we started here and now we made like a new programming language, and then we're here, and then it's so you just keep innovating, and by continually innovating, you're usually continually improving just the lives around you, the industry, like everything like that. And I just think that's really cool. And that's probably what I enjoy the most, is just when people just have those brilliant ideas that all of a sudden, hey, this is a great solution for this problem that we're having. Yeah, that's cool. So I guess reality, it's all the way down to problem solving is what it basically is. But problem solving and innovation is,
Yeah,
yeah, definitely the thing that I enjoy the most. Then for
it is. It's ridiculous, isn't it? Now it's like you look at sort of the kind of stuff you get with the cognitive services in Azure, and you can just the amount of stuff you can do there. You would have needed a team of 50 people to do that not so many years ago, just to write the code for you, and now it's like a 2-minute API call.
exactly,
It's crazy
yeah.
and very, very cool.
Yeah, it's, and by enabling other developers, you're enabling the people that they help and the services that they create, and making the world a better place, kind of thing. But I
Mm.
mean, it is what
Yeah.
it is, and it's, yeah, I think that innovation is super cool, and just seeing how we really progress,
Mm.
just in general. Then for the like least favorite thing, I honestly don't know. Like, I think it's probably the hardest part of being a software engineer is having your personal goals and the company's goals and your career goals all align. I think that is something that's extremely difficult
Mm.
for, because I've seen people leave like companies because they were hired on to do the certain thing, and then that company is saying, well, we don't have a need
Mm.
for that anymore, can you work on this, but you're still a great developer. And then they end up leaving because they just don't like doing their job every day. And so really finding a company that you you like the people, but then you also really enjoy the work that you do, because we all do this for the problem solving and like challenging ourselves. And so when you're not doing something that you're interested in, you're not itching that part of your brain. And I feel like that's where it's really hard to find just tech and companies and the people like all align. And it's like you just need that golden bullet sometimes, and that can be really really hard to find.
Mm. No, that's true because if you go on as a full stack web developer and then the way we decide to structure the teams changes subtly, then there's not a lot you can do about that. It's just what the business needs, isn't it? It's just how much that matters to you over working inside a great team and inside a great company. It's a really difficult call, and I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to it. It's what you feel comfortable with. It's
Yeah, for
I mean, I find myself now spending more time trying to do what is right for the business rather than what is right for my career. And normally it means the two things end up lining up. But it's just this where I am now, down the line of being a software engineer, I kind of trying to recognize the value to the customer, the value to the business, and what that value gives back to all the other developers and all the other employees. So let's say there's a huge production issue as an example. Why shouldn't I be the one in the middle of that? I'd like to be sitting out writing some code, but someone's got to go and get in the middle of it and fix it. So I'll do that if I can do it quickly and well. So it's an ongoing challenge, isn't it? That, like you say, that alignment between the various things.
right, because and that was something that I initially struggled with when I joined uh, like team and everything, and I was working on stuff
Mm.
that I enjoyed for a little bit, and then all of a sudden we had this new project to put out or whatever. And then I was like, I'm not really proficient at this stuff and I'm not good at it. And so for me, I really am a big achiever, and like I really need to achieve things and like accomplish things to like feel good about the work
Mm.
that I do. And so when every day I was coming in and I could just barely get out like a little bit of code, and then I would see other people who are really proficient at it, and then just like knock like 5 screens out. And I was like, I got an eighth of a screen today, and it broke. And so just having that, that I really needed that achievement. And so that's where I started doing side projects on the side and really learning about the stuff that I really enjoyed. And then it kind of happened to
Mm.
be, oh, well, we need someone who's really good at this stuff. And a project opened up, and I was like, sign me up, please, because I'd like to join that, because I really enjoy the technology and I was good at the technology. And so then it was just all the checkboxes were being marked, and I was getting to work in a technology I was working in, or yeah, in a technology that I liked. And then it felt good because I was accomplishing a lot and I was providing the business a lot of value because I was proficient at what I was doing. And so that can be
Mm.
that can be a really big struggle for me sometimes, is when I work on something that I don't necessarily know, or the developer experience isn't great. And that's where I kind of struggle a little bit. And I just see these other things that have been built and they're extremely fast. And I see how other companies are doing it. I'm like, I want to be like a part of that. That looks pretty cool. And so then I like kind of take those ideas and then just put them in team. And I'm like, yeah, this is solid. Like, look, this company does it. And then just kind of go from there.
Yeah, no, that's cool. It's I'd say it's like I feel the same very often. I will drop into the middle of a tech, even now that with how fast the industry moves, there's so much tech I don't know and I haven't seen. And you drop into the middle of it, and in a way, I'm at the other end of the problem because very often I'll drop into a tech earlier before we put it out to the main teams. And you've got to try and upskill and understand that and understand what works and what doesn't work quickly, and that can be hard, and it can be, like you say, you don't feel like you're doing anything useful. It's like, but actually you're kind of learning, you're progressing, you're building your skills, you're getting there. It's just we can't all know everything.
Right,
I
for
mean, we
sure.
will one day. Obviously one day we will, but
Yeah. I mean, that was something that, like, if something really interests me, then I usually dive into it. But then still, what you're talking about, how
mm,
I don't necessarily know, what best practice is, or I don't know what people have tried before. And then I end up doing something the wrong way, but I still want to learn it. But then the business also needs the value. And so it's like,
mm.
man, I have so many competing priorities just on a daily basis that I think we don't really realize sometimes, and just kind of put it on autopilot. But I still think that, there's like we do a pretty dang good job of it, I would say, of just balancing all those. So
Yeah, I think so. I think so. It's the yeah, no, yeah, we do. It's 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 hard sometimes to get that balance right. I mean, the thing I find difficult with like the side projects is I enjoy doing side projects. I'm doing some stuff in my Pi at the moment in .NET Core, but it's one of the difficulties I find is, let's say I want to learn some F sharp. I go and find a few Pluralsight courses. I learn a bit of F sharp. I spend half an hour an evening for a first week, and then I run out of time because I've got things to fix and teams to run, and then it sort of drifts out your head somewhere. And when you're not doing it for a job all day, every day, it's difficult to keep that in at the front and center of your brain. And so you can learn all this stuff, and then you slowly feel like you're de-skilling because you're doing something else all day. But it's sometimes I think it doesn't matter, because if you ever need to get to do that again, you've done that learning. It's a pattern down there in your brain somewhere, and it will come back out. You just need to start doing it again, and that learning you did and the understanding you built, it's still in there. It's just not in the middle of your head at the moment.
right.
So it's always worthwhile.
Well, I mean, that's even how it worked when I initially came to team, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we got to do some SQL," and like the team was there's a lot of stuff in like SQL and stored procedures and stuff like that, but I had never worked on it at scale
Hmm.
at university. I knew how to do like left joins, right joins, and then inner joins, and that was about it. Like I could select and everything like that, but then I kind of just forgot about it because then we worked on other stuff at university, and I was like, oh, I got to know these algorithms.
Hmm.
I'm screw SQL. Like, just I'll pick it up later. And then I got the team, and they're like, "Oh, can you like, write some of this stuff?" And I was like, yeah, it's going to take me a little bit, but I can." And so just getting, you know it and you have
Mm.
the skills, but man, getting that spun up and just remembering how to do things is, it can be a struggle. Like, I had to remember how to create a HTTP client in C sharp because I completely forgot and I had to look it up.
Mm.
And I was just so used to JavaScript. It's like, yep, new request, and that's it.
The key thing there is that you had to try and remember, and I think the thing you learn in software as you go along is you learn the principles and you understand the principles, and then when you get into a new tech, a new language, you're just trying to really center yourself in, how do I apply the principle? Are the principles I know right? And if they are, how do I apply those in this? And if they're not, what is the right principle? And I still have that now, where if I spin up a little console project at home and I want to say put some OAuth in or something to go and connect out to an API, I still have to go and Google it and think, how do I do this? Because when you get into big software projects and big code bases, and you'll know this, everything's done for you. All that lot has been done 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, by either by you or by other teams, and it's wrapped. So
Mhm.
when we connect out to databases, for example, from the stuff we work on, you don't have to worry about ADO.NET because that lot has already been solved. You just have to put a call in and it's done. So if you go into a greenfield project and think, how do I put ADO.NET data table call or data reader call into this? It's like, I have no idea. I need to Google that syntax. I haven't done that for 5 years. But I think that's true wherever you are in your career as well. We kind of specialize in the things we're doing at the moment, but hopefully we've learned enough general good practice and principles to drop into anything and get running really quickly.
Right.
Hopefully.
Oh man. But yeah, I mean, and that's kind of just how, I think, just even if we looked at it on a micro scale, that's how programming languages work in general. You learn how an if statement works, you learn how a for loop
Hmm.
works, you learn how a while loop works, and then of course, every language has their version of writing it, but you know the principles and you can apply those. And so, really learning from a general perspective
Hmm.
allows you to be that much better when you go to a specific technology because you understand not just the
Hmm.
language syntax, but you understand the principle and like backings behind it. So definitely true.
Yeah. And I mean, there are, there are specialisms that are useful.
Mm-hmm.
So when you do a lot of .NET, okay, it's managed memory, but still understanding things like dispose patterns and garbage collection matters because it's good practice. It means that you free up memory quicker. So knowing that stuff helps, but to just get up and running quickly, once you've got the principles in place, that doesn't take too long. And the rest of it then is just speaking to people who know the depth of what you're doing and learning the new best practice for the world you're in at the moment. But that's what we do. That's our job. That's our job, isn't it? We're problem solvers, and we we just do that in whatever landscape we happen to land in.
Very true. Very true. But yeah, thanks for joining the podcast.
Yeah,
It was really great, talking about both of our experiences and how they actually do run parallel and we run into a lot of the same problems, but also different problems. But yeah, just want to thank you for coming on, sharing your experiences. So with that, we can sign off.
no, no problem. Been a lot of fun. Thank you.